during the final 6 months of the Trump administration, 13 federal inmates were executed. That ended a 2-decade federal moratorium on capital punishment. Now the conservative Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 plan for a second Trump term includes a plan to execute the 44 federal inmates on death row. The plan also calls for expanding the number of crimes punishable by death. Now, the Trump campaign says any policy plans are being developed within the campaign, not by Heritage, but Project 2025 is seen by many to be a policy and personnel blueprint. So, Ben, many of these prisoners have been on death row for years, so why shouldn't the government move more quickly to execute them?
Because that's not how the government works with anything. They're slow with everything. So there's that, right? The other issue, though, is the process of going through and having the due process that each individual has. So although they've been found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in court, they do still have the ability to appeal. Now, the idea of executions is this whole swift and certain aspect for it to be preventative. It has never been swift or certain in our recent history, so therefore it doesn't have the preventative component. All it does have is giving justice to people that believe that that's the way to do it. To expand it to what? You know, I don't know what else we would be executing people for. That would be interesting if that was in the 900-page document by...
And I think they did mention crimes against children. Would be something, although my understanding is that right now the death penalty would not apply to someone who is not actually murdered, not killed.
Yeah, but DeSantis wants to extend that to rapists.
Right. Well, I guess I would just say the trend over time, 300 years of experience of the death penalty, has been to narrow its application, right? And so this would be a huge change if they're trying to now expand the application of the death penalty. And it just goes to show the kind of bloodthirsty nature of Trump, right? He's not interested in preventing crime. He's interested in punishing people, right? The cruelty to him sort of is the point. You know, the harsh punishment does not deter crime. The research does not back that up. What deters crime is the certainty of being caught. And so if we're concerned about prevention, we should try to up what's called the clearance rate, right? This is the number of percentage of crimes that police actually or law enforcement actually solve. And that number is about 37%. Yeah. That's not high, and it's actually gone down. So,
Michael?
Bloodthirsty, Sarah says, right? You know, the death penalty, I think about, you know, the old West, hang 'em high, hit the horse, let 'em drop, that whole deal, right? There's always been fluctuating data on the deterrence of the death penalty, but depending upon what part of the country you're in. Like, for example, Texas, they still talk about Old Sparky. They have reverence for Old Sparky in some parts of Texas still today, right? But I get it, you know, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, right? Punishment should match the crime, the penalty should be da-da, right? But all these things are highly suspect in a developed nation, right? When you go back and read the documents, the founders of this nation, particularly Jefferson and Madison, they channeled the French philosopher Montesquieu. They talked about the Italian jurist Beccaria, who talked about that there should be no punishment that goes beyond what is absolutely necessary. They said that capital punishment is tyrannical, right? So in America, we have maximum security prisons. We have life without parole. So there are those who wonder why the death penalty is still an option for punishment in developed countries, right? So this goes beyond political football. This is actually people playing judge, jury, and executioner of human beings in the 21st century under the guise of so-called disciplinary. I don't understand it at all.
Well, I understand it to be what both you and Sarah have suggested it is, and that it is about retribution. There is a bloodthirstiness in our politics that is so deeply disturbing to me, and I think we've only scratched the surface in talking about the death penalty. But I will say that, in fact, it was the Clinton administration with the 1994 Violence Control Act that expanded application of the death penalty to an additional 94 crimes, including some of which had to do with drug trafficking. And remember, this is the same bill that Biden was criticized for having pushed through. So this is a tried and true strategy, and part of it is about satisfying the public that something is being done and sort of feeding red meat to the public without laying out some of the things that have been pointed out here, which is that there is no evidence that shows definitively that the death penalty is a deterrent at all. And the only kind of deterrence that punishment works, or punishment, deterrence is accomplished by way of punishment, is with respect to minor crimes and administrative offenses. But when it comes to murder, no, we don't have proof. So what the heck are we doing?
Accountability and justice for the families that have a loved one taken from them unfairly, illegally. It's serving justice. It's not just bloodthirsty. And I can get how that comes across as being bloodthirsty, and it is. It is retribution. But so is a lot of the criminal justice system. So that argument is there. The research is extremely limited in showing deterrence with the death penalty. But as far as retribution and being beyond being bloodthirsty, that research is there.
Yeah, but the thing is, Ben, with the death penalty, there is no fixing it, and quite a few people have been shown to be innocent with other kinds of crimes where retribution is in place, that you can fix that.